to nurturers to provide sacred space for love and support, to care for, inspire, and protect and teach each others. Right now, I would like each and every one of you to say aloud a name of a person who has nurtured your faith. My mother, my grandparents. Mothers play an important role in church, society, and families, but not all women who mothers have children, yet their mothering helps others just as much. Some single women and men have been surrogate mothers to young people in ways that help transform them into mature adults. There are men who have had to be both mother and father in the family. There are women who have sought adoption and been mothers in a way that a biological mother cannot. And not all women who have children are mothers, or at least they aren't always good ones. United Methodist Women has a legacy of answering God's call to help those in need. This call has led us to make maternal and child health in our communities and around the world a top priority for the next 4 years. Another focus we are providing all our support for is building peace. Our organization has worked in both areas for 150 years. In fact, these issues led to Methodist women to inspire the observance of what we now call Mother's Day. Women have come together with their sisters in their locations to respond to the needs that they could see. For Ann Reeves Jarvis, it was a coal mining town that is now part of West Virginia. She could see the needs of women and children and could see the effect of the economy of her day on the people that she cared for most directly. Ann started mothers' clubs where she talked to young mothers about the importance of hydration of fevered children, sanitation, and nutrition. And then the Civil War came along, and they put a field hospital right outside Grafton. She recruited nurses for the military hospitals, and after the war, formed friendship clubs to promote reconciliation. Ann Jarvis was convinced that all women, but especially mothers, had to work for peace because they could see the ravages that war had on their husbands and their sons in a way that no one else could, so they could focus and have a more powerful voice. And that's what the origin of our current Mother's Day is. Ann Jarvis died in 1905 before an official holiday was placed. But her daughter Anna, who never had children, stayed true to the purpose of the celebration. She envisions Mother's Day as a time to write a personal letter to your mother, a time to send an inexpensive carnation, a flower in which the petals hold tight like a mother's love, and a time to visit or attend church together. She later became an outspoken critic when the special day turned to commercial. In May 1908, Ann Jarvis organized the first official Mother's Day celebration at a Methodist church in Grafton, West Virginia. There was also a Mother's Day event at one of Wanamaker's retail stores in Philadelphia on the same day. Others like Julia Ward Howe and Juliet Calhoun Blakely also were advocates for Mother's Day. Ann Jarvis and John Wanamaker, who was the famous retailer, were the ones that got Woodrow Wilson to sign the petition. In 1914, President Woodrow Wilson signed a measure officially establishing the second Sunday in May as Mother's Day in the USA. May is a month for celebrating Mother's Day. It is a big month for commercial retail. Candy, flowers, jewelry, greeting card sales spike during May. Traditionally, Mother's Day is one of the most popular days for eating out. I bet a lot of you have plans to go and eat out today, or your family is going to make sure that you eat. That's always a big thing. Church attendance is higher. I can officially say that because I see some people that I have not seen in here before. So we can say, yes, that happened. I was hoping that would happen today. The frequency of phone calls, texts, and video chats are above average. Mother's Day is a real boom for the commercial economy. If we let Hallmark provide the sentiment, then everything looks sweet and happy. But let's take a closer look. Not at mothers, but at the sacred space of mothering. Jesus' mother had tremendous challenges from the very beginning, giving birth to a baby while away from home under less than optimal circumstances. fleeing for the first years of the baby's life because of death threats, living as a refugee in another land. Many face similar challenges in our day as well: war, national disasters, economic devastation, etc. When we seek to meet the needs of these people today, we are creating a sacred space for mothering. As we know from the scripture, when Jesus was 12, they made their annual pilgrimage to Jerusalem. But they lost track of him when it was time to return. In the company of so many family and friends, it's hard sometimes to know who's there. A friend of mine, we as mothers, we're like, oh, no, that can't happen. We don't want to believe that's happened. I can tell you that I have lost my son before, not for 3 days, but he was very famous for climbing underneath clothes racks. And I would be searching the store frantically, scared to death that he was gone, and he would step out and go, I'm right here. He was just as calm. A friend of mine told me one time her mother and father had 8 children. They did a lot of camping trips and stuff like that. They had an RV. So lots of times they had other members of the family, or they had friends or cousins that went with them. Well, one day she said they were in a restaurant. She was about 9 or 10 years old. And the next thing she knows, her family is gone. Like, they're just gone. She's like, she goes, I start panicking for a few minutes, because that was before cell phones. You couldn't just call and say, I'm right here. So finally, after about 3 hours, her family realized that she was gone. I guess probably at the next stop to eat would be my guess. So they turned around, they came back. She was just calmly sitting there eating her ice cream. So she's like, so it does happen. We can forget our children. It's like you're counting heads, you don't know, you turn around. So this is what happened to them. They just turned around and they're like, I thought you had him. No, you don't have him, I have him. Where is he? So they turn around, of course, and they go looking for him. And they find him just sitting there calmly, teaching, talking with men of great importance. And they're probably going, oh my God. The first thought is, he's safe, thank God. The second thought is, what is he doing? These guys are important people, and here's my 12-year-old son sitting here talking to them. They had to be a little bit scared and a little bit ashamed. Like, what's wrong with him? What is he doing? But then they realized that he was someone very special. So that, I think, probably brought its own problems. They knew in that moment that their son was not normal. He was not regular. He was meant for something higher. So they had to come to terms with that also. We all know that frantic feeling of losing our children, or finding out that, wait a minute, my child is doing something that I might not think is okay, but it's important. He's doing this for a reason. We have to support them sometimes in what that they do, even though we don't always agree with them. The day that my son told me he wanted to be a police officer, I wanted so hard to say no. I wanted to say, do you know how dangerous that is? Do you know what can happen to you? None of those concerns were in his mind at that time. All he knew was he wanted to be a police officer. And when he failed his first test, I said, great, he failed. He's not going to go try this again. My son is not a person who usually goes after something that hard. But he took the test again, and he took that test 3 more times. He always passed the easy parts, the part where you have to shoot, the part where you have to carry someone, but when you have to go up and you stand in front of someone, he has a really hard time with that. He's very shy. I thank George Curtis for helping him with that. So I just knew then in that moment this was something that he wanted more than anything. So I had to put away my fears, I had to put away my doubts, and I had to stand there and I had to support him. Just like you guys have had things like that happen, whether it's good or bad things. Sometimes our children get into things that we're not sure about. They get into drugs, they get into different things. You still have to support them no matter what. You have to stand behind them, even if it means tough love. The next time that there's a recorded exchange between Jesus and his mother, it is the wedding in Canaan. The wedding is running out of wine, and Mary asks Jesus to help with this. She is so confident that Jesus will do this. She says, oh, just get him whatever he wants. He can do that. And she lets it go. She's done with it, which is just like a woman. We stand up and we give someone that and we say, we just take care of everything. We're out there, we support, we comfort people. It's always a part of mothering. We're always there to nurture. By taking on the role of a nurturer, it is easy for a woman to become so overwhelmed by the weight of her responsibilities that they often fail to nurture support networks and friendships for themselves. We are reminded once again that we are all in need of nurturing. In our readings of Ruth today, we have the perfect example of women who mothered each other. In the first chapter, Naomi is widowed and her sons die. Here's a woman in their time that she now has no one to take care of her because the husbands and the sons were the ones that took care of them. So she lost her whole family. She's devastated. Not only did she lose her husbands, but she lost her sons. I can't even imagine just being all alone and not knowing anything or anyone or what I'm going to do or how I'm going to survive. So she sets out to return to the only thing she knows, to go home to other family. One of her daughter-in-laws, of course, decides that she's going to stay. But Ruth adamantly refuses to leave Naomi. Their exchange is a beautiful example of love and support. Ruth creates a sacred space for mothering Naomi by accompanying her back to her homeland. Once they get there, Ruth goes gleaning to help provide support for her mother-in-law. It gives her quite a reputation in the land, and she attracts the attention of Naomi's relative Boaz. This is when the tables turn. Naomi gives Ruth advice on where to go to get noticed, so she secures Boaz's protection. Later, Ruth and Boaz marry, and through this son, they become a part of Jesus' lineage. Both women, related by marriage but separated by faith and culture, find a sacred space for mothering together. In each other, they experience faith and love, even though they had no obligation to each other. We have to remember, women, that we need to also have friendships and things that nurture us. We tend to forget that we need to be nurtured also because we tend to be taking care of everyone else. So remember, you need those friendships, you need those things, you need that support. We all need support. Mothering can be done by all kinds of people. It is not gender specific, though it tends to be attributed to women. Nurturing can come from women who are mothers, women who have never been mother, older ones and younger ones. Nurturing definitely comes from men also. All of us need nurturing at some point, and all of us can be nurturers also, whether for children or parents or all the ages in between. In caring for each other, we experience the sacred space of mothering, and in these expressions of nurture, we understand God's love for us. Thank you.